Hey guys, my name is Aldas, and in today's video, I'm going to be starting a little series that I'm going to do for the next week, and it's going to be a three-part series on the downfall of McLaren. Now, this series is basically going to be me trying to analyze where has it gone wrong for McLaren, because we know where they are now, and we've known where they were in the past. Their history is illustrious in Formula 1, but it is just such a shame to see where they are today, and I'm going to be analyzing as much as I can from where I think it all began. Now, if you enjoy my videos and you're looking forward to the series, then don't forget to drop a like and subscribe as well. That would be massively appreciated. Once again, I'm on the road to 1,000, so hopefully get there very, very soon with your help. And yeah, let's get into this. Now, for me, the story begins in 2012. Now, some people might find that a little bit strange because that was the season where McLaren were in contention for the title. But that is, for me, where it all started to go wrong. Now, let me set the scene at the start of 2012. So the previous 2 years in 2010 and 2011, where, of course, there was no driver changes after 2010 in terms of the big three teams with, of course, Lewis Hamilton and Jenson Button in the McLaren. McLaren couldn't quite put out a car good enough to match the all-conquering Red Bull. I think that combination of Sebastian Vettel at the wheel and Adrian Newey designing the car was clearly all dominant and made them gave them two world championships in both the constructors and drivers. So when we get to 2012, this was of course back in the day when McLaren were powered by Mercedes in the V8 era, and you have Lewis Hamilton and Jenson Button at the helm. Now, in the first race, now let me just set the scene. They get a 1-2 on the grid with Lewis Hamilton taking pole position and then Jenson Button winning the race the next day, giving a 1-3 for McLaren. And this should have been the turning point for them. This should have been the mark of the season where they win the title, because without a shadow of a doubt, if you look through testing, if you look through the start of the season until the end, they had the fastest car. While Red Bull put let's say, it was still a very good car that Red Bull put out, but something Sebastian Vettel wasn't quite confident with at the start of the season, and as for Ferrari, that 2012 Ferrari was a joke. That was a shed that I have no clue how Fernando Alonso even made into a championship contender, while Felipe Massa was busy battling for 6th or something in the midfield. So, all credit to Fernando, we know. But that McLaren should have been the winning car that season. It was quick enough throughout the season, and they did develop it throughout the season. But there were massive, massive troubles up ahead. And just thinking about where they were, turning up to Australia, pole position, winning the race, and how it turned out from there, they threw away that season massively. Now, when you look back on that season, and the reason why I say they threw away the championship, they had so many problems. As Eddie Jordan put at the time, there were so many finger problems by McLaren. The amount of messed up pit stops that were just ruining strategy. Their terrible qualifying with Jenson Button. Jenson Button, to be honest, after that first win, his campaign turned into a bit of a joke, to be honest, because he just never took off at the start of the season after his win. Terrible qualifyings, car issues throughout the first part of the season. And as far as Lewis Hamilton, so many pit stop errors that cost them results, cost them points. And this is not HRT or Marussia in 2012. This was McLaren. They won the championship in 2008, only 4 years before that. And yet they were having terrible pit stops. Lewis Hamilton running over a wheel during his pit stop in, I think, the Spanish Grand Prix. And so many issues with the team like that, which just cannot happen. Now, obviously, as I've already said, I think Lewis Hamilton was the only one that realistically could have won that championship from McLaren. And you could see that during the mid-season and towards the end of the season that his mind was wavering and that he was planning to leave. And of course, there was a massive story with Eddie Jordan and everything, and he called it perfectly. And Lewis Hamilton decided to leave. Of course, there was also controversy during the Belgium Grand Prix of some telemetry being released on Lewis Hamilton's Twitter. So just everything seemed to fall apart. There was never a sustainable amount of wins and results by McLaren. And of course, Lewis Hamilton, the biggest reason why I think that the downfall of McLaren started in 2012 is the ridiculous run of reliability towards the end of the season that destroyed Lewis Hamilton's championship hopes. Retirements from leading positions in both Singapore and Abu Dhabi, that was just the final nail to Lewis Hamilton's title hopes. And in my opinion, that was the biggest factor in Lewis Hamilton's decision to leave McLaren. And this is why I think the start of the downfall of McLaren started in 2012. When you look at Lewis Hamilton leaving, who was the leader of the team, he's been there his entire career. Some people even thought he would stay there for all of his career. And that, in my opinion, was one of the biggest reasons why McLaren started to fall. Lewis Hamilton leaving the team, it basically in ruins at the end of it. Jenson Button not having anywhere near the pace that he should have had that season. The massive amount of pit stop trouble during the start of the season, and just the general strategy and errors and lack of performance from Jenson Button in qualifying and stuff like that, and the reliability as well. That is where it all started to go wrong in 2012. So with Lewis Hamilton off to Mercedes for the following year, 2013, it was Sergio Perez that made his way up to McLaren after a fantastic 2012 campaign to join Jenson Button. And clearly 2013 was a season that McLaren wanted to just move forward from 2012 and go after the championship once again, just forgetting the misery of 2012. But it was clearly not to be, as this was now McLaren's worst season ever, an entire season without a podium. And that was just unheard for at McLaren at the time. The 2013 campaign was a disaster, with the team not getting along, the drivers having so much friction right from the outset. I mean, in Bahrain 2013, the two teammates were just clashing with each other, almost taking each other out, with clearly there was butting heads in McLaren, and Sergio Perez not being happy with being the new guy, and Jenson Button clearly wanting more respect as the more, obviously, the older driver and the more established Formula One driver, and being a champion as well. So clearly already there was relationship problems in McLaren, but above else, the car was awful. And apparently at the time, there was a massive change to the car that they almost started completely fresh in 2013 with a different concept. It was not really an evolution of the 2012 car. It was a completely different car, and it did not work. It was a terrible car. And to put it into context, the previous year, Lewis and Jenson finished 4th and 5th in 2012. And now in 2013, they finished 9th and 11th, with Jenson Button getting the better of his younger teammate Sergio Perez, with their best result being a 4th by Jenson Button in Brazil. Absolutely shocking. Now, clearly there had to be some kind of change at McLaren, and there was. They dropped Sergio Perez for their youngster, a guy called Kevin Magnussen, who we all know now. And what was incredible for me to see is that they didn't give Sergio another chance, and inconsistency with the driver lineup. 4 years, 4 different drivers. Lewis Hamilton, Perez, Magnussen, Alonso, who definitely go on to in the next episode. And however, the biggest change of all in 2013 was the announcement that McLaren would be partnering up with Honda. They decided to partner with Honda for 2015 and try to bring back all those incredible results and all that incredible history with Ayrton Senna, Alain Prost, and that Honda-McLaren relationship. That would be, as we know, a massive, massive turning point in McLaren's history. And all these changes, in my opinion, were just too much. All the driver changes, all the personnel changes as well, with Martin Whitmarsh gone, Ron Dennis taking a bigger step back into the team, and the Honda change as well. I think, in my opinion, that was just too much. But of course, hindsight is a brilliant thing, isn't it? Now, after what was a shocking 2013, a different driver change and a completely different set of rules as well, we came into 2014 and the Mercedes dominance began, of course, as we already know. And in my opinion, this helped McLaren so much because their car was just as bad as it could ever be in 2014, but it was helped by the fact that Mercedes clearly knew what they were doing in the engine department, and getting those engines from Mercedes was critical in their season. They actually managed to get a double podium in the first race after Daniel Ricciardo's disqualification, with Kevin Magnussen second and Jenson Button third. However, that would be the only podium that they would get all season long, and actually the only podium that they have since then. They've not had a single podium since that Australian Grand Prix. And what that shows me is that sort of confirms what I thought would happen in 2014, which is clearly McLaren not being on top of the game and not developing their car enough to compete with everyone else. While other Mercedes engine supplied cars like Force India and Williams were scoring podiums beyond that, McLaren could not keep up. And fair enough, they reaped the benefits of that Mercedes engine at the start of the season, but they could not keep up. Maybe they were developing the car for Honda, hoping if they started early and scrapped 2014, then once the McLaren-Honda project began, they would be again winning races and winning championships. So obviously that's what McLaren were hoping would happen, but something else happened at the end of the season in December, and it was one of the biggest driver changes in Formula One history, and that is Fernando Alonso, after a horrible time at Ferrari, not winning any championships and driving underperforming Ferraris, going back to McLaren actually after a horrible first period to join the McLaren-Honda project and Jenson Button, with Kevin Magnussen getting kicked out. And Fernando Alonso thought that is where you need to be to win championships and races at an engine manufacturer team. And obviously, maybe at the time it made more sense to him. It definitely was a risky move because he left McLaren on a cloud and the project was not proven. So I don't know what Fernando Alonso was thinking, but clearly he was willing to take a gamble on the McLaren-Honda project working. And that's where I'm going to leave off in this episode. In the next episode, I'm going to be talking about the McLaren-Honda, Jenson Button and Fernando Alonso partnership and how that all turned out. So yeah guys, if you enjoyed the video, then don't forget to give it a thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe if you're looking forward to the next ones as well. I'd also love to know what you guys think as well, so don't forget to comment in the box below. And yeah, thank you very much for watching guys, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.